Thank you for joining us today, either in the morning where you're at or in the afternoon. And we are really excited to speak with you today on topics of indigeneity and of child welfare. I myself, I'm Dakota Roundtree Swain. My pronouns are they, them. I work for the Capacity Building Center for States as a young adult consultant. And I'm very excited to speak with you today. And I'm going to pass it over to Marissa for her to introduce herself.
Bonjour, Indigenous minwa, ochi kniket Indigenous, Migizido Diams Cognin Jaba. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Marissa Van Zyl, and I'm a family consultant. I'm also a former foster care provider and adoptive parent, and I'm also a former Indian child welfare worker. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much, Marissa. We really are trying to uplift lived experience in a lot of different capacities today. And being Indigenous and coming from various cultures and various backgrounds, we are definitely going to include that in lived experience and lived expertise because it's so important to be a part of it. So I think today we were going to start a little bit with your story, Marissa, and talking about the process of you adopting your son. So whenever you're ready, if you'd love to speak on that, I'd love to hear about it. It's a very powerful story.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys hearing me today. So we're going to start and we're going to go back to 2014. I graduated college from Northern Michigan University. And my dream at that time when I was going to school was I'm going to graduate, I'm going to find this great job, and I'm going to help my people. And I wanted to enjoy the family life, and I wanted to become a foster parent. So months after I graduated, I ended up getting hired by the Lac-Vidazaire tribe as an Indian child welfare worker. And what a perfect place to start out my foster care dreams. I ended up getting with our social service director, and I let her know of my interest. She told me, you can't get a foster license. You can't get a tribal foster license because your home is too small. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's okay. That's just a little bump. At that time, I was living in a 2-bedroom home with my 2 children. And I knew that I was on the housing list to get a bigger house. So I knew this is just a bump in the road. So months later, I ended up going to the National Indian Child Welfare Conference. And there I learned that Indian custom is under the Indian Child Welfare Act. Whereas back in the day, we all lived together in like 1-room homes. That was normal, that was customary. And so in order to license a home like tribally, you can do it customary. So I ended up bringing that information back to the social service director, and she denied me once again. She said, your home is too small. I already told you that. And she said, we don't follow those standards. The way our tribal foster licensing process is set up is it mirrors the states. So that was very discouraging for me. But also, I was kind of like in the back of my mind, I didn't tell her, but I was just kind of like, we need to work on changing this. At that time, we had no licensed homes in our community. So that was also another big red flag. And it was like, well, maybe these two things are tied together. And then you have me coming along that's like very adamant, like, this is what I want to do. I want to provide this for this community. And, I want to take children in, it was my dream, and I wanted to make that come true. And so we're going to move a couple of months forward. So now we're into 2015. I'm almost at my job for a year. And my office sits across from our CPS worker. And she was very, very distraught. She was very vocal. She was very angry. And she was basically yelling around in her office. So I went over and I said, what's going on? Is there any way I can help? And she said, come on in and sit down. So I sat down and she tells me, we have a baby that's going to be born. And the adoptive parents just decided they don't want to adopt baby. Baby's due date was coming up. She said that bio mom's plan was just to leave the child at the hospital after she gave birth. So I'm taking it all in, and I don't know if I really thought it through, but my words were, I'll take the baby. And she was like, oh my God, really? And she said, get in your office right now and fill out your foster license application and give it to the social service director. So I did that, and I waited. The next day rolled around. CPS worker told me, well, due to time constraints and the fact that baby is going to be born so quickly, due date's coming up, we're going to do a power of attorney for you so that you'll be able to, if you want to be there at the hospital when the baby's born, you can be there. You can be able to take the baby to doctor's appointments. And I was like, all right, I'll do whatever it takes. And she told me she let bio mom know. She told me that bio mom was very happy that I was willing to take baby. And then she shared with me who bio mom was. Bio mom is my second cousin. That baby is my relative. I did not know that. And just getting to talk with bio mom about it, she was more than happy, because she said, I know he's going to go to a good home. So at that time, we started working on the power of attorney. And to my knowledge and bio mom's knowledge, that power of attorney was temporary until we waited for that foster license to get approved. And so what had happened with bio mom was, we talked, and I told her, I said, hey, whatever doctor's appointment you need to go to, I want to be there. I know she didn't have transportation, so I was like, I will drive you. You don't have to worry about gas. I will take you. I'll help you in any way, because she's my cousin now. I know this. So I'm not only helping her because of the child, I'm helping her because she's my family. It's not a part of my job. It's my responsibility as her family member. So less than a week later, baby was born. It was to my understanding that I knew that she had two other sons that have muscle dystrophy. She is a carrier of that gene, and it gets passed down to the boys. We knew it was a boy. We knew that this baby boy was going to have a 50% chance of having muscle dystrophy. We knew that. She was very honest with me and let me know that she drank. She did drugs. We knew that was something that we can expect, those types of complications. It was beautiful to be there for a baby's birth. It was a ceremony in itself. Right away, she told me, she said, he's your baby. And she didn't want to see him. I always had that in the back of my mind and I told her, I said, if you ever change your mind, I'm here and my door is open to you. I got to take baby and give him his first bath, which was such a precious and special moment for us. So right away we bonded. We already knew we were all family. It was a beautiful thing. But meanwhile, there was some not so beautiful things happening. That social service director and that CPS worker, without bio mom's knowledge, were looking for another home outside of the community. It was later that I found out they were doing all these things behind her back, which breaks my heart. And I found out that they didn't want baby in our community. The social service director told me, she said, and I will never forget these words, there is nobody here healthy to take this baby. Meaning, I am not healthy. My cousin's not healthy. Our whole family is not healthy. Our whole community is not healthy. We're not good enough. I did not respond to that. I didn't know what to say. I was in shock that a child welfare professional would say that to me, knowing that I'm an Indigenous woman, knowing that I'm connected so closely to the community that I worked in. I didn't know how to respond to that. So moving ahead, my tribal foster license was approved after 10 months. So my son was 10 months old. We finally started receiving financial support through Title IV-E funding. And so we had that power of attorney prior. So what a lot of people don't realize is if you're using a power of attorney, or if it's a voluntary placement, or if it's a situation similar to ours, is that there's no funding available for us. I was working as Indian child welfare worker, I was making $10 an hour as a single parent, trying to pay off my student loans, all of that good stuff, and taking in a newborn baby that I was not prepared for. I went further into debt, along with my father and my mother. We all kind of put ourselves out financially during that time. And it was so enraging to think that, like, where's the tribe? Where's the state? Why isn't anybody helping us? You guys talk about the best interest of a child, but that comes with, you need money to make that happen, to raise a child. And then on top of it, with his special needs, his disabilities, at 2 months old, he was diagnosed with muscle dystrophy. So that 50% chance turned into, that's what he has. This is what his life is going to look like. At 2 months old, he was also diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. That's what his life is going to look like. He's going to need many doctor's visits. He's going to need a strong support system. Nobody prepared us for that as well. So as very hurtful in our process was like, you just kind of throw this in our lap and you don't back us up, and this is a baby, he's helpless. He needs somebody to fight for him. And so that was just probably the hardest part of my story that I got to share, is about that. Is like, somebody so vulnerable, how could you not want to help them? And so a good thing happened at 12 months old for my son is he received his spirit name. And that's who he is. And his spirit name is Kaiupoka. It means bear child. It was a very special name for us because the bear represents medicines for us. And that to us was like, that's the strength that this boy needs. He really needs that. So it made him, it solidified his place in our family, in our community, which was so important for the rest of his life. And he got to be enrolled in early Head Start in the tribe's program. And there he would start to learn his language and to go to school with his cousins. And it was just a beautiful thing. So, I mean, along with all the bad things that were happening at that point, that we were juggling and things we were struggling through, there were also those positive moments and things that I was very thankful for. So I'm very thankful for Tribal Head Start, Early Head Start programs. They are amazing. I mean, the statistics are there to prove that they're wonders for children. And so during this process, I finally got my tribal foster license after my son was 10 months old. And I was just like, wow, we actually, we don't have to struggle so much. We can start chipping back away at that debt and we could get back on our feet. It was good. A big roadblock that we hit was finding who bio dad was. That was something that was so important to me because knowing that bio mom said that he's your son and I'm raising him as my son, I still knew like he has this other family out there. So my goal was to find bio dad. So DNA tests were put out to different people. I'm not going to say how many. We didn't find bio dad. We didn't find him. We may never know who he is. But I fought really hard for that. I made sure that because I was like, the social service director came to my office one day and she was very upset that I was pursuing the DNA testing. And she said, "What are you doing? You're just making this process longer." And I said, "You know what? One of these days he's going to come and he's going to ask me who his dad is. And I want to be able to share that with him." And she was very upset, totally not supportive of the DNA testing. And I don't know, there was just so many obstacles for us. My son was finally adopted September 5th of 2017. He was 2 years old at that point. And it was a beautiful day. We shared it with community members and family. We're very open about the adoption. My son knows that he's adopted. His biological siblings know that he's their brother, and he knows that he has sisters and brothers out there. So it's a very open situation. It was a very the whole process was very harmful to our family, but as well as healing. He did receive a second spirit name, which is our family name, and it's Nawe, which means the center of the universe, and which is very, very fitting for him because we have some interesting dynamics in our family. You know, not everybody gets along, but he really brought us all together. And so he was a very special gift to our family. And we just can't say enough good things about him, you know. He's our little angel baby.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and for sharing all of that. This process, what you're explaining, though, it is so important to see the individual impact of it, because this is what's happening to every single family. But this isn't abnormal what you went through. This is what happens a lot of the time with this process. But I did really want to hit on the fact that you were able to provide your son an access to his culture, to his language, to having a spirit name like that. As someone, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, why I'm here, that was ripped away from that and never got that back. You were giving him such a gift, and I know you know how much of a gift it is, but I hope that everyone here recognizes it. And I can share a little bit about my story and what would happen if that, you know, if Marissa had not been able to adopt her son. So I'm from Massachusetts, and we have a lot of complications with tribal enrollment and state and federal recognition. One of the biggest misconceptions is that every tribe that exists is federally recognized. It is not. And if you're not federally recognized, then the Indian Child Welfare Act does not apply to you. It also, another misconception, does not apply on tribal lands, but that's a whole other thing. But for me, I entered foster care at 15. I am white passing. That is both a privilege and yet also a mark of insidious stuff for me, and it's very complicated as an identity to hold. I was written down as white just right away. I entered foster care. My birth certificate says Native American on it. And I was in 7 homes in 2 years, or 2.5 years. And not a single one of them was Indigenous. And when they did find out that it was Native, they realized that I didn't count for ICWA, so it didn't matter. And I was put in all white homes the entire time that I was in foster care. My last placement was on the Cape of Massachusetts, next to Mashpee, which is where the Mashpee Wampanoag have their, like, all of their celebrations. I was 10 minutes away from there. Not once did anyone think I should be brought there. My mom passed at 19, and my grandfather passed when I was 16. So when I left the system, I was dislocated from everything. I didn't even feel like my voice mattered enough to come to speak with y'all today. I had to be really encouraged to share my story, because I feel as if I straddle a line, where I don't belong. I don't belong in the white communities, and I don't feel like I belong in my community anymore because I was ripped away from it. Like, yes, I've been living on the lands of my people this whole time, but I haven't been able to be a part of any of that. And as I grew older, my moccasins didn't grow. I had my little baby regalia, and I got my spirit name Strawberry Moon, which Marissa and I really connected about. It's the harvest moon in June. And so lucky to have that. So blessed to have that. I wish I knew it in my own language, but we don't know it because of everything that has occurred up until this point, the generational trauma, the erasure. And what really comes to it is that I don't know who I am. I don't have a community. When I go to Indigenous Peoples Days events or anything, I don't feel like I belong. I feel at most a steward of information on how to avoid this. And it has taken me a very long time and meeting amazing people like Marissa for me to start to feel like I do belong again. And my indigeneity was so central to my childhood, so central. It was ripped away from me. And with that was because ICWA didn't apply to me. ICWA is a gold standard, absolutely a gold standard. And as many of you probably are aware, it is up for arguments in the Supreme Court in November. If we lose ICWA, I challenge all of you in this audience to think of me, to think of Marissa, to think of Marissa's son. Every time that you don't have an act or a law in place potentially that makes you do it. It's morality, it's saving lives. This is life or death. Without belonging, what are we? And I'm still struggling to find that belonging. And that is so not okay. This shouldn't be the experience that people have. And so I am so grateful for people like Marissa, who even when you weren't prepared to have taken a baby, you had so much going on already, but that's indigeneity, is what you said around, it's what we do for our people. You and I are both struggling with things in our lives right now that are incredibly difficult. And we are here because as Indigenous people that are femme presenting or born as female, we sacrifice, as you said. We sacrifice and we come and we stand up and we show up. And so we're showing up today in great pain to show you, well, at least I am. I don't want to speak for Marissa, but I'm very concerned about ICWA. And what happens? What are the ramifications? How do you support us in your everyday lives now with ICWA? And how can you better do it if we don't have that anymore? And if we do have it continuously, like hopefully, how can states better implement it? It's an amazing, amazing policy. It's not ICWA's fault. It is the implementation of the states. So I really want to open up the last little bit to see if you want to add anything, Marissa, but just the colorism aspect of things, I just wanted to point out that's a misconception really quick. The amount of times I've been told you don't look Native is an incredibly racist statement. There are so many of us and so many varieties and melanation and lack of melanation, and we're all incredibly diverse people. And so please don't just see a white kid and assume that child is not Native. Please make sure you do your due diligence, because it really has had deleterious and disastrous consequences for me in my life. And I don't know if I'll ever heal from that fully. And that's okay. But this can't happen This can't happen to our babies, and it continues to. And this is a process of assimilation of policies that have happened over and over again. We need to save our babies and make sure that people like Marissa's son get to stay in their communities. That is such a gift. So that's my little soapbox. And then Marissa, I'd love if you want to add in other things. We have about 5 minutes left of this.
Sure. So something that I really wanted to touch on was, and this was a question that's just kind of been really burning for me, and you answered it a little bit, was what does our world look like without ICWA? And so I got to speak with one of my mentors yesterday evening, and she shared with me, she said two things. She said, first they want to take our kids, and then what's next? They're going to come after our federal recognition, our sovereignty. Where does this road lead? Because it's leading somewhere. And so just some thoughts for people to leave with you. Definitely nothing you need to come up with answers with today, but just really let that set on your heart and think about that. Where is this going? And another thing that really stuck with me that she shared, and I guess I could kind of, I laughed at the time, but now I'm just like, wow. She said, we're not pound puppies. Our kids are not pound puppies. Why do you want our kids so much? Those are our kids. That's our future. You're taking our future away from us. And then two more things. So I used to be an Indian child welfare worker. Talking about implementation is two things. Looking at those those notices that get sent out when there's court proceedings that get sent to the tribes. People need, what I used to see come across my desk all the time was people were not filling, those workers were not helping those people fill out their family trees. So what am I supposed to do with that information if you're just giving me your name and your mom's name? You know what I mean? Like, help them, do your due diligence and help them. If they're eligible for enrollment, if that child's eligible for enrollment, then let's help that process along. I've seen so many empty sheets, and I would send them right back, like, we need more information. And like, if those are our people, we want them here. We want them enrolled here. And then the second part is making sure that we work on foster recruitment. Okay, if we need more Native homes, then let's get them going. If this lady that I worked with, the social service director, is saying that we're all unhealthy, well, then let's fix that. Let's fix that. Let's not keep this toxic cycle going. You know, it's time to break that. Help us be healthy. Then, if that's your job, if that's what you truly want to do, then let's do that. Let's do that together.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I think that is so essential, is together. We need to be collaborating on this as sovereign nations with other nations. So essential. And a world after ICWA is not something that I'd like to think about, but something we really do have to think about. And you're right, what's next? And I guess I want to leave everyone just thinking about what it means to stay in a culture, what it means to have belonging, and what you can do to facilitate that at all times. So anyone that's in the chat right now that is reaching out to us, we will have that, but feel free to add us as well if you feel like you want to do that. You can add me on LinkedIn. But this is a continuous conversation. We have to fight for this. And Marissa and I are not the only ones who can do it. So we need you guys as well. This is a call to action. Please help us. We've got enough on our plates as Indigenous people. So if you want to be a true ally, go to your supervisor and say, what are we doing next? Thank you so much. This is the end of our time. Marissa, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you all for your kindness and your support and your chat. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Chimugachi, everybody.
Bye, everyone.